Dotwagai open electorate in the Third National Parliament for 1982 to 1987 and the Fourth National Parliament from 1987 to 1992 and member for the Anglim Southwaki open electorate in the Fifth National Parliament from 1992 to 1997. During this term, he served as member for Parliament, parliamentary committees on appointment, law and order, chairman of the pensions and retirement benefit, deputy chairman of public account and letters as chairman of public account. He also served as member for administrative services and state from 1991 to 1992 under Parliament under Prime Minister Sir Rabi Namalio. He was a member of People United Party. As a mark of respect to the memory of the late Honourable gentleman, I invite all members, all the honourable members to rise in the place. I thank the Parliament. Honourable members, I wish to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery of speakers, teachers and grade 12 history students from Sogari National High of the Excellence in Iri Koiri District, Central Province, and young women leaders from Pacific Institute of Leadership in National Capital District, and staffs and grade 8 students from Kalumarubu Primary School in Rigo District, Central Province. On behalf of the Parliament, I extend to the visitors a warm welcome to the Parliament. Welcome. Any petition? Notices? Clerk.
The member for Abao, Sepukatemu, gives notice that he shall present a bill to repeal and replace the St. John Council Incorporation Act 1976 and for related purposes.
Honourable members, question time, 45 minutes. Member for Komolia.
Thank you, Vice Speaker, for giving this opportunity once again. Question Blomi without notice, Blomi direct involved in the Deputy Prime Minister. Question Blomi, Honorable Lands Department, how much title you may receive? Finish all title holders. And number one question. Okay. Honorable Lands Department, you got potential or generative big money revenue in the Lands Department. Land banking is more important. Economy you will prosper. One way you need to extend or state land in the country. So, Mila Gabroseti Maraberoso government law allocated 150 million. So, question below me, how much title you may assume finish law title holders? Number two question below me, how much revenue you may collect him every year through the lease fee from those title holders? And number two question below me. Number three question below me, plan the state all land or big possessions or idle nothing. All title holders are not developing. Given we all go planning one blow palm. She mustn't go Lands Department go working inspection or clear and grave in work on or the working development. Now how you may expect him all investor to come and say no invest. Where you may open him up all state or land you may got all title longer. So me like all title holders who have been holding more than 5 years, almost forbid him is the title, 5 years or more, said don't be developing, you must forbid him, now you must free him up. All land, all investors can come in, invest. So, question below me, one plan, first question, you may got how much the title you may be issued so far under the Lands Department. Number one question below me. Number two question below me, how much revenue you may collect him every year through the lease fee. Now number three question, if your department can forbid him all title holders who have been holding more than 10 or 15 years, which are not developing. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Lands.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. I'd also like to say thank you to our good member for Komahulia for those important, pertinent questions that concern all of us, especially when land is the sense of our culture and our well-being in this country. Question number one, how many titles do we have in our country? We have 3 different areas of land. One is customary land, which is owned by our people, which we don't have records of the titles for. The second one is freehold land, which we inherited from our colonial predecessors who once governed us, and that is freehold land which mainly sits amongst churches and freehold land which is held in perpetuity by mainly freehold churches that our churches hold. The other one is alienated land, which is, of course, government land. With the government land that we hold, in total, we have about 4% in the whole country, Mr. Assistant Speaker, that you may currently hold in. And our government has a view to expand that 4% of alienated land that we hold in this country. With the exact amount of individual titles, whether industrial, whether residential, and such forth, we do not have current exact estimates. We are currently working on a backlog of trying to sort out a stocktake and data of how many exact titles of state leases that we hold in our country. That is currently work in progress. That is work that we have started a year ago, and with the help of our development partners, Mr. Assistant Speaker, but hopefully by next year we should have all our stocktake alienated land accountable for us in this country of ours. It is not an easy task, Mr. Assistant Speaker, because the records that were held in lands before were all manual records. that were held and were moved from office to office. The Lands Department now is currently working on having electronic, digitalized records that our development partners are helping us with, and we are now 60% through the process. Hopefully by next year, we should be able to know exactly how many titles we have in our country and which titles are and held by which people. Unfortunately, these are things, I don't like to say the word inherit, but these are things that we are burdened with that we need to fix. With the question number 2 of revenue collected, we have the same issues. Because of our manual records, Mr. Assistant Speaker, we did not have those records available when I became Lands Minister. We have now, the good news is we have now managed to ascertain 90% of our state lease outstanding records for revenue collection. When we started 2 years ago, our normal revenue for the whole of the state leases in Papua New Guinea was 19 million kina for the whole country. And I was a little bit perturbed by that because I understand we have a lot of land in this country that should be paid actual leases. So we put into place an electronic system, partnering with a development company, an IT company. And I would like to announce the good news to this Parliament that now we have proper records of these leases. And as of last year, we increased our revenue from 19 million kina. Last year, we made it 41 million kina. And this year, by the end of this year, we should be able to collect close to 100 million kina just for land titles alone. Just by putting in a proper electronic digitalized system that is able to track title holders. We also, Mr. Assistant Speaker, we also have close to 500 million kina outstanding on land rates and leases, which we are currently taking court action against. We have also, in the last 6 months, put in place a system that will be able to identify all leaseholders, all landowners, working with the torrent system that we have inherited from the ACT capital in Canberra, and that system will be able to identify what sort of land we have, identify rezoning of land, physical planning of land, changes in land status, because that has been the inherent problem that we as a country face. People have made fraudulent titles, people have made fraudulent surveys, and with this new system in place, by next year, we should be able to roll out electronic e-titles that will stop all these fraudulent titles and fraudulent physical planning approvals that have been going on for a lot of years. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the questions that have been raised are important, and we have not rested. We have ensured that with very little money, we have managed to make these collections of our revenue increase with no budget input from national government. We have had a lot of instances where we have electronic systems that have been put in, that have been collected nearly 30 to 50 million kina over the whole life of our Lands Department towards an electronic system that has not worked. So with this new system that we have put in, Mr. Assistant Speaker, I'm also glad to announce to Parliament that it has not cost government one toya, not one toya, but we have raised close to 40 million last year, and we will be raising close to 100 million kina this year. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Assistant Speaker, on the third question, on title holders that hold land that is undeveloped, the law is specific, and after 5 years of holding undeveloped UDLs, the law is specific, and as a Minister for Lands, we follow the law, and we can forfeit this undeveloped land. So any identified land, the Lands Department is going through it at the moment, and they are collating information so we can go through the forfeiture process of any land that has been acquired, any state land, so that the Lands Department can forfeit these lands. We have, Mr. Assistant Speaker, we have forfeited a few other lands, but we have been taken to court over this matter, and not only to court, other relevant government bodies have taken court orders against us, so that the Lands Department is now battling these forfeiture notices so that we cannot proceed with it. But it is going through court, and once the forfeitures are done, we will have a handle on the matter. Whilst on the matter, Mr. Assistant Speaker, our government has put forward 150 million kina to work towards unlocking customary land to help our people, to help industry, to help development. Because 4% of our land now is insufficient for us to do arable agricultural development, to build new suburbs for our people, especially in Port Moresby and Lae, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Madang. Our people are currently living in settlements. And this new program is targeted at helping our people working in partnership with agencies, development partners, number one super, and proper companies that we can harness and develop these suburbs so we can put another 10,000 housing allotments for our people in the cities of Port Moresby, Lae and Madang. This project will commence this year. It has already been commencing, and it should be, by the end of this year, we should be able to have the subdivision allotments done. People will ask, Mr. Assistant Speaker, why we are spending so much money on putting towards unlocking land. But if we unlock land, our customary land, and we work in partnership with our traditional landowners, similar to what we have done at Roku with the Tuhava partnership, the landowners will benefit, and also government will benefit in returns on investment, on power, on utilities, on state leases. If we unlock 10,000 allotments of land, Mr. Assistant Speaker, in the city of Port Moresby alone, that will bring a return on investment for government at approximately 50 million kina per annum. That is rates of 1,000 kina per allotment to be brought in, an average of 50 kina every fortnight for PNG Power, an average of 50 kina every fortnight for PNG Water on garbage rates and other relevant rates. So it is not just, Mr. Assistant Speaker, government putting out money there. It is also looking at unlocking land, putting roofs overhead for our people, making bankable titles for our people, working in partnership with our local landowners, and bringing in a return on investment to government that goes towards consolidated revenue. So with this unlocking of the first 10,000 allotments, I am very, very positive, Mr. Assistant Speaker, that it will really enhance our GDP, enhance jobs for our people, enhance factory participation, and most of all, look after our people by putting roofs over their heads and an income for them. I wish I could go on, Mr. Speaker, but I will, it's question time, it's short, so I will probably in grievance debate, Mr. Assistant Speaker, I will elaborate a little bit more on this matter. I hope this, our good member for Komo Hulia has been made happy with these series of questions. Thank you.
Governor for Western Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. May I talk? Assistant Speaker. May I talk? Good morning, Loimi Ogata, Member of Parliament, Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, our ministers, governors, Mila talk special morning call all members of Milo Western Islands Province too. Me talk thank you long all students, staff gallery. Acting Speaker, me question me without notice, but me ask him Internal Security Minister. Long law and order. This is Parliament now, 11th Parliament. All leaders since this 11th Parliament. Me yet only been declaring me long last year, 5th of August. The last week, Friday or Saturday, and me come up with some 1 year governor, or some baby governor, 1 year. Now, you all members of Parliament too, you me 1 year please. No one think time and wait me blah. Me 1 year finish. Prime Minister, you 1 year, 11th Parliament, you 1 year Prime Minister too. Now you me Ogada. So we got 4 more years to go. Law development now, you make a big problem stop law country and law and order. Since this 2 weeks, you may come stop, you may been talk plan it through law and order. So this sitting you mean behind law tomorrow now. So you may come up with some resolution or you may got some plan long. Real plan blow, but you may go back and make law and order no got. But you may go all province. Because all law probably you mean all forefathers you mean been passing law finish law parliament, this law parliament. Stop, but you know what order in charge of the country. So law and order and big talk you me talk. Every day you may look him all man very well post him on good picture na bagram you me. Now you may been this 2 weeks you me talk big through law and order. So Internal Security Minister, time you me talk long law and order, and tomorrow in Parliament, and last day so you got some plan lo give some work lo you me all leaders long province no got. Also me all governors, me all open members. You me must go out lo province too, now you me must address him law and order. You may come to Parliament to talk law and order, plus Bagra fighting come up, but in fact, you mean no corporation, you mean no go stand also one team law province, law district, you mean but talk law and order. So Internal Security Minister, me feeling also you must ask him me all leaders to law Parliament. Now you mean must go down, organize one them all councillors, you mean all leaders. Now country and got big law and order problem. One time. So me like ask him Internal Security Minister, me no work blow you tasol, me no work blow police tasol, and work blow you me all the member of Parliament now. Law and order am the big problem now. So Internal Security Minister me got some work and by give me plan no got. For the last few days you me talk law and order. He got some resolution or he got something by me go back one time, talk to one time PVC now. All police blow you mean all trouble fight areas now, all this land. West Islands and one province where stop the Highlands region. Now plenty heavy come up the Highlands and will affect him West Islands or some province below me. Now so far fighting come up the hanger and me got about 60 or 70 all man team injury na stop the now sick. And today I'm all stable, I'm now sick. So I'm can't travel, I mean, no slow down, I'm going to go on yet, so you may go silent police now. I mean, me feeling also, I mean, no.
Honorable Governor, sorry, let me interrupt you. You can go straight to the point, you can ask him answer.
Yes.
A question long. Minister can answer him.
Yes, so I'm me total law and order. So next Parliament sitting, but you may come back now total law and order too, but these 2 weeks you may stop please, me like but you may go back now, making some work law and order. So Internal Security Minister, you got some plan or real plan long. All discussions last time we got something you may no got. I'm question for me. Thank you.
Minister for Internal Security.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. Firstly, before me give him reply, blomi long good pla Western Highlands Governor Bloyumi, me like look savel and the guest Bloyumi, particularly the students. One day, one of you will represent your people in this honorable house. Deputy Speaker, good question, law and order. Me not kisim long time. I think in his question he also answered the need for us to be collaboratively working in the space of law and order. I hope today I will be given an opportunity long present him statement blomi. So it's a statement blomi, but highlight him how Bayumi can collectively address him law and order. So this is a question you ask him long, I may stop long. This is a statement blomi today. But I must take this opportunity to emphasize the need for all levels of government to be collaboratively working together. The space of law and order is a holistic approach towards addressing law and order. Whilst we at the headquarters or at the national level, we already know that there is a greater need for our numbers to increase. And that's what this government is doing. Unlike any other government in the past, they've invested money in policing. We have now recruits coming in that will fill up our numbers to meet what the quota of a country needs per population. We're also increasing our capacity in terms of the support of infrastructure, including support in the areas of logistics. I recently sent a memo out to all members. I believe I have sent it out to our opposition too, alongside how police will increase its support to your provinces in terms of logistics. How you address law and order. Each province is a case-by-case scenario. We are 22 or 21 countries, so to speak, in one country. But the concerns are the same, and it actually comes down to your councillors, council level, ward level. You identify all challenges you got long him, and then you have your PPCs who will draw up what we call an operational plan to your ACPs that will then provide those plans to the headquarters so we know how they are addressing it within your province. And at the national level, we are to ensure that you're getting the appropriate support. I also recently sent out to its members, and hopefully if you haven't received it, the financial drawdown that we've had this year to each province. So you are tracking how the headquarters is delivering in terms of the finances and resources to your districts and provinces along supporting capacity below Yumi 11 province na district. So we're also being transparent in the way we are addressing law and order to support you in your provinces. With that, as Deputy Speaker, if time permits, I will make my statement, which will also cover your many concerns. But at the onset, Deputy Speaker, first opportunity when I became the minister responsible for internal security, me been giving big talk long Yumi Olgata. We are leaders. That is why our people believe in us to lead. So take that responsibility and also lead. That's why you've been given the mandate. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Member for Mandy.
Me like looks so long. Also, Martin Bloyumi.
Honourable Member, you have a point of order.
Assistant Speaker, if I am wrong or right, according to standing orders, if there is supplementary, you need to entertain him this as a precedent. Before you can ask a question. Thank you, True.
Sorry, Honourable Member, you can ask him point of order again. Me no,
Point of order, me talk sawet asol or some time you get question finish, now you get supplementary, teasing out. It's appropriate you entertain him this last supplementary as per standing orders.
Thank you. good honorable member. Mino arem supplementary. Mino arem so mino give him share. Thank you. Honorable member for Mendi, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. Milak Luxavel all Sumatin blame long. All various all schools blame long and Sidina. Central Lucidi Sidan Watayumi. Question blomi in a stable notice paper by me Salamigolong Education Minister. Mr. Vemino talk Savelo you, but you one good minister, so by you begging. So Mr. 1 year long Parliament as a teacher. Now it will be unfair for me not to speak on behalf of the 60,000 plus teachers who carry our country. Also, current country blame me shoulder. So, time me got this opportunity, me like try and put in some question law, Minister blame me. One of the core reasons why standard of education has declined big time in our country is significantly impacted by the poor treatment of teachers. Or, in fact, some you may not look at them teacher good. Considered as the pillar of society in pruning and shaping the human resource in our country, yet are lowly paid and trodden underfoot. Their needs are mostly overlooked. Such is the case that the country has lost touch in terms of human resource development and hence the poor output. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the teaching profession should be placed in a position where the cream of intellectual community is attracted to join the teaching force. By improving remuneration packages and simultaneously providing better living conditions so that premium quality output is achieved. When the best of our human resources is invested in raising the bar, in learning a high quality output is achievable at the end. Hence, the teaching profession must not be given a second choice, but must be made appealing, attract the branch of the nation. My question is simple, very short. Can the minister confirm or deny the statement that I've made, that we have been overlooking? You mean talk law plan is something, standard, law and order, can get all something you go, but all teacher, you mean overlooking, you mean not improving all the pay. Today, the base level pay for a primary school teacher is between 1,000 and 1,400 or 500. That's very, very low compared to other countries. Why can't we pay them 2,000 or 3,000 kina base level pay? My question is, does the government has any plans to improve teachers' welfare and pays in the near future? Thank you.
Honorable Minister for Education.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. Thank you for a very good question from the member for Mendi, affecting our teachers' performance and welfare of our teachers throughout the country. Before I answer that question, I acknowledge our students and teachers here at the gallery. We acknowledge your presence. Mr. Assistant Speaker, I confirm that our teachers are the only government officers out there in our society, in the remote places and all parts of our country where we members are not there, but our teachers are there flagging the government's image out there. And I commend those teachers who are hardworking and who are faithfully serving our people and our government out there in the rural communities. Our government is concerned about our teachers' welfare. As I took the office of the minister, I have directed that there must be an overhauling in our entire education system, including the Teaching Service Commission, to ensure that our teachers are entitled to their benefits. So many of those issues being addressed, but I'd like to tell our Parliament today and our people that the Marape-Rosa government has seen the importance of education for our country, and teachers and students teaching and learning is far more important to bringing the society at the expected level that our society demands. So like today, after the launching of STEM education by Prime Minister, our top cream students will be selected and launched to attend the USA institutions and universities. I will be doing a media conference on what the Marape-Rosa government is doing to overhaul the entire education system, so that Prime Minister will launch, as we celebrate the anniversary for our 50 years journey in 2025, where our country should go in terms of education, leading the way to reforming our people's livelihoods and behavior that we are facing and encountering social issues today. So to answer the question, Mr. Deputy Speaker, as the Speaker, we are working on upgrading the teacher qualification through our 50-year vision. Teachers will no longer accept a certificate. In early childhood, we will have diploma and degree teachers teaching. The early childhood program, primary schools, the degree and master's teachers will be teaching. And high schools, masters and PhDs, and universities and colleges, we will have PhDs, masters and professors teaching. So we raise the bar, so we raise the qualifications. At the same time, our government is now embarking that Papua New Guinea, as you can see, there's a drop in our society, and many of our spillover effects, people not doing the right things here in the society. We confirm when we are doing an overhaul in the education system, we find that our people are qualified but not educated. Educated in the sense of behavior, values, and our attitude system. For instance, you see a PhD holder qualified driving down the Waigani street, putting down a glass and spitting the betel nut on a nice pavement the Governor Powers was building, followed by the empty tin can and buai skin. That's not qualified. I mean, that's not educated. So we are doing an overhaul in our system now to make sure our population is qualified and educated to the right thing at the right place.
Mr. Minister, you have a point of order.
My dear good Minister, I think a question Gupla member asking him, how by me improving condition below teachers, the security below teachers. So can he answer the question, so Napla can ask him question too. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, Opposition Leader, your point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think me answer him finish, but me like explain him, so me make him. But our Teaching Service Commission is working on upgrading the teachers' payroll structure based on their qualification. So it's the working in progress. So we are addressing that our teachers are entitled to all those entitlements. And thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kompia Mambom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is indeed a privilege and an honor to have a space here on the floor of Parliament, and an honor to speak representing your people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to ask a series of questions that cross-cuts a number of portfolios, and therefore I will address my questions to the Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, my first set of questions to the Prime Minister are on the economy, and I ask the good Minister for Treasurer, who is not in the chambers, but all economic ministers to take note. Papua New Guinea, Mr. Speaker, has endured gloomy economic conditions in the last few years due to the COVID-19 and the Ukraine-Russian war. The road to recovery for most economies around the world, including Papua New Guinea, has been an uphill battle. Mr. Speaker, in the case of Papua New Guinea, we have been negatively impacted by the delays in the key projects, including the Papua LNG, Wafi Golfu, and the closure of the Porgera mine. The Marape government has taken measures to contain this. However, Mr. Assistant Speaker, these interventions are slow to be felt by the mass of our people. Our businesses, especially SMEs, are suffering. Health facilities are running short of essential medical supplies. Schools are operating without adequate government support, and their operations are impacted as a consequence. Shortage of forex is impacting businesses. Inflation has made it hard for the ordinary family to afford basic necessities. Unemployment is on the rise. Suffocation of meaningful engagement in the towns, districts, and wards is seeing an increase of lawlessness throughout the country. The list goes on, Mr. Assistant Speaker. The decisions made here at Waigani, Mr. Assistant Speaker, are not having the intended effects and the impacts on the economy. It's not also, Mr. Speaker, felt at our ward levels.
Sorry, Honourable
My
Member
questions, Mr. Assistant Speaker, therefore, to the Prime Minister.
I interrupt you. You can ask the question to the Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. Around short-term corrective and long-term preventive measures taken by the government to help turn the economy around. Question 1, all indications are that the Papua New Guinea economy is bleeding, and current policies, including the Connect PNG policy, seems not to be helping in the short term. What steps is the government taking now or have in plan to ensure the Papua New Guinea economy is steered back on track, Mr. Assistant Speaker? Mr. Assistant Speaker, my second question, what is the government doing now to resolve the forex issue the country is facing? Is the central bank compromised in discharging its roles independently? What is the government doing to resolve the Puma issue? Mr. Assistant Speaker, normal businesses and lives are affected by this ongoing saga, and with no clear path to an amicable solution in sight, it seems. Question 4, what is the government doing to hasten the reopening of Porgera mine and the new Papua and Wafi Golfu projects? Mr. Assistant Speaker, this leads me to my next set of questions to the Prime Minister, which are on the Porgera gold mine. When our Prime Minister did not renew the SML, or the Special Mining Lease for Barrick, which resulted in the closure of the mine in 2020, I was among those who fully supported the Prime Minister in this decision for a greater take in our resources.
You have a point of order here. Honourable Member for Popodata, what is your point of order?
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. My point of order is that those are new questions. If the good member can maybe ask those questions tomorrow, so the Prime Minister can respond on the first questions, which are specifically on the economy. The second questions are to do with the mining. Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Honourable Member, your point of order is not in order. Sorry, Honourable Member, our time is nearly left. So you can go straight to your point and you can ask the Minister to answer you.
Mr. Speaker, may I take this opportunity now to move a motion to extend question time? Mr. Speaker, I move that the question time be extended.
Honorable members, the question is that so much order of the standing order be suspended as would be preventive the time for question without notice. This day the extended by the 20 minutes. Those who in favor stand.
That's good.
Okay, you can take a seat. Honorable members, the question time is extended to 20 minutes. Honorable member, you can ask the question.
Mr. Speaker, I will continue from where I left off before the motion was moved. I was amongst those who fully supported the Prime Minister in this decision for a greater take in our resources when he made the decision not to renew the SML for Barrick. Mr. Speaker, since the closure, there has been various dates set for its reopening. The first being September 16 of 2020. This did not eventuate, and it has been about 3 years now. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the Prime Minister only makes such statements upon credible advice from state agencies, and these agencies are expected to deliver on these announcements. State negotiating teams, agencies and departments that provide such advice to the Prime Minister must take full responsibility. Failure by these agents of the state has disgraced the office of the Prime Minister and the government. My question to the Prime Minister through you, Mr. Assistant Speaker, upon whose advice was the dates given? Question 2, who is to blame for this? Is it the state negotiating team, MRA, Treasury, or who? And have we dealt with those responsible? Mr. Assistant Speaker, have we dealt with those that have misled the People's Office twice by advising on failed dates to open the Porgera mine? Mr. Assistant Speaker, can the people of Papua New Guinea know how much has been paid to the state negotiating team on Porgera alone and any other consultant associated with these negotiations? Would I be correct in saying that they may have been paid, Mr. Assistant Speaker, well over 100 million kina to date? Mr. Assistant Speaker, can the people of Papua New Guinea know how much the country has lost in corporate taxes, GST and group taxes, not only from Barrick, but all other companies and SMEs associated with the Porgera mine? Question 7, does the government have any plans to compensate those losses, especially by Papua New Guinea businessmen and women, including workers who were laid off or terminated as a result of the closure of the mine? Mr. Assistant Speaker, can a proper and a detailed financial analysis be done to ascertain the losses and how long it will take us to recover? My second set of questions on Porgera are based on the following. As an MP from the Enga province where the mine is located, I am still in the dark on the revenues from equity and royalties received over the last 30 years. Porgera is a significant asset to our nation, and as we get closer to opening the new Porgera, we must learn from the past on this very significant asset. Mr. Assistant Speaker, I have heard that there are audited financial reports for the revenues and expenditures of Porgera funds. But to date, I have never cited one, Mr. Assistant Speaker, even when I was Minister of Finance and Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. Mr. Assistant Speaker, can the Prime Minister confirm if these funds have been audited or not? Question 2, if so, Mr. Assistant Speaker, can the Prime Minister direct the Auditor General's office to make those audited reports available to the public? My third question is, through you, Mr. Assistant Speaker, will the Prime Minister give us a gross figure of how much was paid into the Enga Children's Fund over the last 30 years? Mr. Assistant Speaker, we are aware that numerous investments were undertaken by the fund, and can the Prime Minister assure the people of Enga that his office will assist in making these investments public including any investments that were disposed of. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the Prime Minister will agree with me that any assets or investments sold by the fund must be at arm's length and disposed at fair market value. Can the Prime Minister on question 5 assure us that to his knowledge no related parties or proxies were issued to sell assets and investments that belong to the children of Enga? Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister inform us to which individuals or companies the investments and properties of the Enga Children Fund, if any were sold, have been sold to? Question 7, Mr. Assistant Speaker, can the Prime Minister tell this House if those people or companies who bought these properties and investments from the children of Enga had the capacity to buy or own those assets? Meaning, did they have the means to buy and own these assets? Where did the capital to make these purchases come from? And question 10, were they financially able to make those purchases at the time of the acquisition? Question 11, Mr. Prime Minister, through you, Assistant Speaker, inform us if the purchases were made at fair market price and if there is any connection with these people or companies to the directors of the Enga Children's Fund. Mr. Assistant Speaker, can the Prime Minister agree that it is important before the new Porgera opens that we uncover this information? Question 14, if so then, does he agree with me that a forensic investigation or audit must be carried out at once to answer these pertinent questions? Mr. Speaker, monies received and spent by Enga Children's Fund unfortunately has no checks and balance. There is zero, Mr. Speaker, zero visibility. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister make a commitment to this House to give the Engan people independent audited reports for the Enga Children's Fund? Mr. Speaker, this brings me to my next line of questions on Porgera and its impact on at least the 5 districts of Enga. And I serve one of them, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Honourable Member, I interrupt
Can the Prime Minister confirm or deny if he has heard,
Honourable Member,
seen... I'm asking questions, Mr. Assistant Speaker. What is wrong with you?
Honourable Member, your question is very long. So you can ask the question. You can go straight to the question, and you can.
Yes,
ask
I'm going straight to the questions, Mr. Assistant Speaker. When you interject, you're wasting my time.
Honourable Member, time you ask him question, and we go long pla. I make some more time law. Minister ask him. So suppose you like ask him, you can put him in notice so that we can. Give him time, then we can ask him questions.
These are significant and important questions, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Honourable Member, you have a point of order.
Member for Chuave.
Yes, Honourable Member for Chuave, what is your point of order?
My point of order, Mr. Assistant Speaker, is for Parliament to maintain the quorum of the House and to respect the chair.
Honourable Members, your point of order is in order. Honourable Member, you can...
Mr. Assistant Speaker, thank you. My sincerest respect to yourself as the Assistant Speaker seated on the chair. On question 16, can the Prime Minister confirm or deny if he has heard, seen, or read about any funds from Porgera reaching any of the 5 or 6 districts of Enga? Is he aware of any projects in Wabenamanda or Layagam or Kompiang for that matter? Question 18, Mr. Assistant Speaker, does the Prime Minister agree with me that districts like Kompiang Mambum, Lagai, Porgera, Kandep and Wabenamanda have little to nothing to show for from
Honourable
the proceeds
Member,
of the
you have
Porgera
another
mine?
point of order here.
Mr. Assistant Speaker, can the Prime Minister agree that districts in Enga need their fair share of
Honourable Member, you have another point of order
money?
here.
What is the point of order here?
Honourable Member for What is your point of order?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. I think some of these questions are as old as the honourable member for Kandep being in this house, and he should be the better person to tell us what exactly happened with the program and the legacy issues and the funding, and the governor for Inga should also be in a good position to answer some of those questions, not the Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member, you have another point of order. Sorry.
I think some of the issues you're raising are knowledgeable by you, by the Honourable Governor for Inga, and it would be justice for the Prime Minister to answer some of these questions, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honourable member, your point of order is in order.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. I'm coming around my questions now. If I have a few interjections, I would conclude shortly, and I'm doing so from this part where I am sitting down. Yes, of course, we have served, and I agree with some of the point of orders raised by the good Honourable Bando. But the fact of the matter remains, I am raising these questions for public consumption, Mr. Speaker. These are not indoor matters for members of Parliament only. And therefore, Mr. Assistant Speaker, I continue with my questions. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that districts like Kompiamambum, Layagam, Pogera, Kandep and Wabenamanda have little to nothing to show for from the proceeds of the Pogera mine? Can the Prime Minister agree that districts in Enga need their fair share of development funding? This is the important question, Mr. Assistant Speaker. Can the Prime Minister agree that districts in Enga need their fair share of development funding from the mine? Can the Prime Minister advise us of his plans for the 6 districts of Enga under the new Pogera arrangements, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, my final questions are on law and order. Question number 1. May the Police Minister and other associated minister that relates these questions to you have taken note, and I ask the good Minister for Police to take note on these questions. Question 1. Prime Minister, would you agree that illegal firearms is a major cause of social disorder and illegal activities in the country? If so, does the government have any plans to deal with the illegal firearm issue in the country at present? Is the Prime Minister open to considering buying out illegal guns and destroying them, giving an amnesty period with extensive awareness to allow those in possession to sell them to the state? Mr. Speaker, may I remind all of us the reality is illegal gun holders will not surrender their guns for nothing. Mr. Speaker, after such an amnesty period, the government can issue shoot-to-kill orders through laws to those who continue to possess illegal firearms. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister agree with me that it is indeed time and enough is enough, and we cannot continue to allow gunmen to hold everyone at ransom? And Mr. Assistant Speaker, before I sit down, can I ask you to give me an opportunity tomorrow to conclude other sets of questions I have on matters of health, now that my good brothers on the floor of Parliament are agitated because they need to raise questions as well. But for me, Mr. Speaker, 1 year on, this has been my first to ask this series of questions in this term of Parliament, and I thank you sincerely so for giving this opportunity to ask those questions. But may I ask you to compensate me for the interventions you have made by giving me another opportunity tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Before me give him a say golong, Prime Minister, melak tok savesa me withdraw him this plat tok me put him tok Honourable Minister, member pro Komolia or semi order. So I'm out of order, so me rocks him this plat. Honourable Prime Minister.
All right, thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. Firstly, let me congratulate you for sitting on the chair as our people's house, and you're chairing our proceedings for today. I want to also appreciate the people of Middle Ramu for giving you the mandate, and you're doing your job very fine, not just today, but in your work as member for Middle Ramu. I want to also appreciate the question by the Honorable Sir John Punari, our long-serving member for Kombiam Ambum. And he's making up for the 1 year he's not been asking questions, but asking many questions today. So please bear with him. Every leader is entitled to ask questions. And for those who've never served as Prime Minister, I will have the patience to deal with your questions. Those who've had the opportunity to be Prime Minister, I will never give 1 inch of respect to questions that say that in the form of hypocrisy. And so,
Honourable Member for Yalibu Pange, what is your point of order?
My point of order is let the good Prime Minister know that I am a mandated leader elected by my people to do this job, ask you questions. So you will continue to answer it as I ask it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member, your point of order is in order. You can ask your question.
Mr. Assistant Speaker, when the member for Yalu Pange asked for the people of Yalu Pange, I will answer. But in matters of public policy that he failed to address, I will answer, but I will have little respect for a question that he put to us on the floor. But in any case, coming to the good questions the member for Kombiam Ambum raised, many questions, but all important questions for us. I just want to make a outset response. All relevant ministers concerned to questions that he's raised, asked to take note and have a response in writing to him and a public response also. Important national issues that he raised, though they may be long, but very important questions. I want to also ask the member to put in writing those questions he's raised so that we could give respect to the seriousness of the issues raised. But in any case, just to give a summary on the issues that he raised, because it was questioned without notice, I just want to quickly go through. In terms of what we are doing in the economy, I want to indicate to our country the economy, like many economies globally, in fact, all economies.
Hello, I'm Tracy Pa with the Midday News. Prime Minister James Marape has affirmed that performance was paramount in the running of his government, and he continues to hold ministers accountable in the delivery of their ministerial duties. The Prime Minister was responding to member for Nordfly, James Donald, who had asked him to clarify the performance of Member of Parliament, the review of their performance, and who is responsible for the reviews. Each cabinet minister has issued with certain key result areas. Prime Minister James Marape said ministers report to Parliament while departmental heads come under the supervision of the Chief Secretary.
You have ministers having reports and statements made to Parliament. This is where the country holds to account the work of the executive government. It is important ministers report to the House, and all of them are expected that on up to 6 months in office for this year, and for the rest of the balance of Parliament sitting this year, ministers are expected to present to the Parliament their work they've done thus far, and the work that they've concluded in the previous work year. So each ministers have been issued KPIs based on the key results we want achieved in those ministries and those sectors. For the ministers, Prime Minister's Department and myself, I am responsible to ensure ministers are at work doing what they're supposed to do. Prime Minister's Department, under Chief Secretary's wards, is responsible for all departmental heads to ensure they are attending to targets we have issued them
He said this targets the collective aspirations of the people, embodied when he formed government in the Lolawata camp. For individual members of parliament and provincial governments, annual requirements to furnish work reports, including financial reports on how our districts and provinces are functioning, is there to be complied with. The Public Finance Management Act requirements that on March 31 each year, all departments must report to their operations. Public Service Management Act also depends that reports come back to respective departments. He also revealed that the government was mooting a policy to give out auditing of public funds to private audit firms to strengthen further the financial mechanism of the government. Prime Minister James Marape has reaffirmed the government's steadfast dedication to the law and order sector, exemplified by a substantial increase of 410 million in the 2023 budget. This remarkable surge of 28.9% stands as the most significant funding injection the sector has ever received. While warmly welcoming the parliamentarian statement delivered by Minister for Justice and Attorney General Pila Niningi on Tuesday, Prime Minister James Marape said the government has allocated an additional 410 million to the law and justice sector in 2023 budget, making a remarkable 28.9% escalation from the previous year and setting a precedent for the highest increment ever. He said this allocation sends a resounding message of the government's commitment to ensuring community safety, fostering peace, and upholding justice across the nation. Key highlights from the Department of Justice and Attorney General, as highlighted by Minister Niningi, include the enactment of the Lands Commission Act 2022, effective as of September 2, 2022, leading to the consolidation of the National Lands Commission and the Land Titles Commission into the newly established Lands Commission. Active involvement of the Department of Justice and Attorney General and the State Solicitor in offering legal counsel and approve for the Defense Cooperation Agreement between the United States and Papua New Guinea, and an unprecedented policy decision by the National Executive Council to bolster the judiciary capacity to address the backlog of criminal and civil cases. Approval of funding to increase the number of judges from 40 to 60 with an enhanced allocation of 232 million in 2023 and additional 310 million settled for 2024. This allocation will significantly contribute to the resolution of the backlog of cases. Marape highlighted that ongoing infrastructure development by the judiciary to establish modern court facilities nationwide continues, while drafting of a bill by the State Solicitor and the Department of Justice and Attorney General to establish robust arbitration processes for domestic, industrial, and international commercial disputes is affirmed. World Indigenous Business Forum leaders from the headquarters in Canada arrived on Wednesday to give updates on the upcoming forum, which will be staged here in the national capital from the 23rd to the 26th of October 2023. Founder and president of the Indigenous Leadership Development Institute, Inc., Rosa Walker, and director of WIDBD, Bird Emmington, were present at the MRDC building for the one-day meet. Leaders for the World Indigenous Business Forum traveled to PNG to update the country on the upcoming forum, which will set stage here in PNG in Port Moresby from the 23rd to the 26th of October 2023. Founder and president of the Indigenous Leadership Development Institute, Rosa Walker, stated that it's a bidding process to host WIBF due to the potential to bring delegates to a particular country could have an economic impact of $2 to $5 million for the local economy.
So right now, we are working with countries to come here. Some of them include Taiwan, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, United States, Colombia, Chile, Guatemala. So right now we have those particular countries who will be represented here in Papua New Guinea. We're really excited because our agenda is all about business. How do we conduct business with each other? How do we support each other? How do we invest in your country and Indigenous people and the opportunities that exist here? That's the whole reason we're coming here.
Director of WIBF, Barb Hambleton, shared that the forum could be an opportunity for families to explore the country as well. She shared that leaders coming to the forum are Indigenous and non-Indigenous because they recognize that they are instrumental to the economy as well.
We do recognize that when people come to a forum, they're traveling quite a long distance. They're taking time away from their families. They're, coming to work with us. So we encourage people to bring their families along with them because we recognize that this is a forum. It's a destination. Let's treat it as a holiday as well. Let's come, to Papua New Guinea. Let's spend a few days.
The team will travel back today and will be back in October with the rest of the global leaders. Jasmine Ero-Jack, TV1 News.
The Chief Executive Officer for the PNG Agriculture Company, Brad Jackson, is assuring the country that the upcoming World Indigenous Business Forum in October 2023 will bring great trading relationship. WIBF was held in New York City, USA, Sydney, Australia, Namibia, Africa, Guatemala, Alula, Hawaii, Saskatoon, Chile, Rotorua, New Zealand, Vancouver, Canada, Colombia, and now Port Moresby in PNG. Jackson, who attended several forums, including the forum in Sydney, said that it was impacted and the engagement of Indigenous people together brought power and pride.
That there's been some great trading relationships. Cocoa from Colombia into Canada. I've seen relationships between Asia and Chile, for example. So it's a really great opportunity to build networks and create new trading relationships with other Indigenous communities. I've been here, living here now for about the last 7 or 8 years in Cockapole, and I've fallen in love with the country. It's full of opportunity. It's the most diverse, no doubt the most diverse country in the world.
New Zealand Prime Minister Chris Hipkins has called for the release of a Kiwi pilot kidnapped 6 months ago by separatists in Indonesia's Papua region. Rebels kidnapped Philip Martens, who was working for Indonesian airline Susi Air at the time, at Angua Airport in February. The ABC reported that Martens captured were part of the insurgent group West Papua National Liberation Army and had previously demanded Indonesia recognize Papua independence in return for its release. Mr. Hipkins said the Ministry for Foreign Affairs was leading New Zealand's response by working with the Indonesian authorities. The Prime Minister also said he had spoken with Mr. Martin's family this week to assure them that the government is doing all it can to bring Philip home. According to the Indonesian army, armed separatists ambushed soldiers searching for Mr. Martens in April, killing at least one. Crisis talks have been held in Perth in the wake of the deaths of 2 women in alleged domestic violence incidents in the past fortnight. Grieving family members gathered to remember a loved one whose life has been cut short.
Unimaginable grief over the loss of a daughter, mother and niece.
She's the biggest support in my life from the day I was born. She carried me when I was little, wrapped up in a blankie from my mum's bed to the lounge room couch.
35-year-old Tiffany Ann Woodley was found with extensive injuries at a Bedford home on Monday. Police allege she was a victim of domestic violence. It follows the death of another woman, 32-year-old Georgia Lyle, 2 weeks earlier in a suspected murder-suicide at the hands of her partner. Today, advocates holding crisis talks, saying enough is enough.
The whole of the community needs to stand up and step up and actually be supporting women and children who are experiencing domestic family violence right now.
Police data has revealed WA last year experienced the highest number of reported family assaults and threatening behaviour in nearly a decade. But police say it could just be the tip of the iceberg.
It's confronting. I can't say whether it's growing based on the fact that it's largely unreported. So do we just have more people coming forward?
Advocates believe it's a health crisis.
At the moment, the crisis end of things really gets by on the smell of an oily rag. Prevention, early intervention, recovery and response gets by on nothing. We need to do better than that.
The government insisting the issue is high on its agenda.
We're the first state to have a dedicated minister for family and domestic violence. We've invested well over $200 million since 2017.
The government urged to listen to those on the front lines, particularly Indigenous women, statistically more likely to experience domestic violence.
Who in that meeting had the lived experience? Who are the families that have been impacted? Are they invited?
Miss Woodley's mother wants to meet the Premier to share her experience.
In sports, the impactful role of coaches in athletics' lives is a testament to their success on the field. The late Alex Gima, a revered figure in volleyball, embodied his district. With a background as a player and coach for Team PNG, Gima's influence was profound. His coaching prowess led the Team PNG beach volleyball men's team to victory in the 2015 Pacific Games, symbolizing his dedication. Through selected photos, his proud coaching, mentoring and camaraderie shine. As Team PNG and the PNG Olympic Committee offer condolences, Guillaume's legacy as a coach, mentor and friend lives on. A dramatic surge in abuse dedicated at match officials as major sporting codes on the brink of a mass referees exodus. It's forced Rugby Australian and other sporting bodies to threaten bans and harsher penalties for offenders to stop referees walking away from the game and keep community sport alive.
It was meant to be the highlight of the season, but the crowd at a women's rugby grand final made it the lowest moment in Caitlin Bocker's refereeing career.
It was quite sort of misogynistic and kind of sexist remarks. We did stop the game twice to try and get the crowd to settle. This experience was probably one of the worst that I had in rugby union.
She's just one victim of a growing problem for the game. By the end of round 11 this year, reports of match official abuse were double that of the entire 20-round 2022 season. Among them, a first-grade player in Cooma banned for 18 weeks for assaulting a referee after a match.
Some of the severity of the abuse incidents has been a little more alarming than what we're used to.
It's prompted Rugby Australia to issue an open letter mandating increased sanctions and a new 3-strike policy to hang on to referees, warning if you engage in match official abuse, expect to spend time away from the game.
We would lose about 30% of our referees each year.
It can have an impact on the health of the nation. If we don't have umpires, we don't have games.
Experts are tracking baseball, basketball and soccer matches across the country that have been cancelled because of referee shortages. They argue it's time for more drastic measures.
We'd rather educate people and give them a chance before applying such harsh penalties. The flip side to that is perhaps we should have those harsh penalties up front to try to remove it completely from our culture.
There are also calls for better training.
How to manage conflict, how to resolve different issues that exist on the field, how to manage players, how to create rapport.
Measures needed to stop more referees hanging up their boots.
That's it for sports. Thanks for your company. Tune in at 6 tonight for more.
Mr. Acting Speaker, I just quickly run down through some of the notes that he made mention. On the Forex issue and Puma issue, the government has established a task force who's now reviewing in totality what has happened. Minister Kua is chairing this team. assisted by the Treasury and Deputy Prime Minister. More to it than we may have realized, but I want to inform all of us, permanent solution will be found, including moving away from only one energy supply in our country that we have. When Puma came in 2015 or thereabouts, they became the only supplier, and we were dependent on them. We're now looking at a permanent solution where we're not held to ransom by one supplier. We want to ensure that we're diversified. But the Forex issue, it is really not a cash issue. We have sufficient. In fact, we have built up. If you look at Forex as an indicator of how we are running in the economy also. The previous government averaged Forex at 7 to 8 billion kina. We are now hitting 14 billion kina threshold. In the last 4 years, we built it up. So Forex is really not an issue. It is the requirement of access to Forex that has been an issue, and central bank has been informed that they have to liberalize their monetary policy to ensure that not just Puma, but those who need Forex are given support. Our government is seriously looking at using also other currency, including Chinese renminbi, as a currency of trade. We also looking at central bank allowing for central bank to hold specific US or Forex account by major clients or those who are those who regularly need Forex. Those are reforms that we're looking at to bring into Parliament to ensure we liberalize the Forex issue and make sure Forex is no longer an issue for us in our country going forward. I want to also make mention on the issues he raised, I think. On the illegal firearm issue, I want to inform this House, Mr. Acting Speaker. We've already passed law in our Parliament that those who are in possession of homemade or firearms of any type, life imprisonment. Life imprisonment. At the moment, arrest is going on in some areas. Some other parts of our country may still have access to firearm. It is a life imprisonment. I'm using this question to reply to all. Those caught will go beyond the bars in terms of life here. We will not change on this. On the issue of buying back firearm, it is not something that we have considered. Possibly we're considering this, but at the moment, I just want to sound it out to all out there who have illegal firearms. Police are doing investigation on everyone. If I could put one case in point, I think 2 weeks ago, after months of following one or two persons known to supply firearms to the Hela and Southern Islands and Enga province, one, he possibly was a former businessman or something from Western Highlands. He was arrested with and linked now to the supply of firearms up there. He's been arrested beyond bars today. All his assets have been worked on, and we hope the court and police do their job and arrests have been made. 16 of them have been arrested. So those who have illegal firearms, well, it's a life imprisonment for you. We're looking at restructuring police. Recruit is going on today. In the police department, there's a change of police firearm happening right now as we speak, so that we isolate possibility of police-type ammunition, because criminals using M16s, SLRs that are prevalent in society. We now issue direction to police to change their gun, and hopefully the bullets up there, the guns become redundant, because there is there's a possibility of eliminating the source of bullet supply. Those are being looked at in totality. Police are changing their police guns. We are working to bring back military to the barracks. Police are also working to set up a special force with power to directly deal with guns and gun-related crimes in our country going forward. I want to give assurance to the House. Sorry I took quite a long time. If the member could resupply all the questions that they've asked to me by way of a letter, we will give respect to these questions and put them up completely in a response to him here, or more importantly, in a public response through media and elsewhere. On the issue of Enga Children Fund, these public funds, they are governed by trust instruments. If trust instruments are breached, him as member concerned can be there to mount a complaint. We now have given benefit to the country, the Independent Commission Against Corruption. This government has brought ICAC into play, or into existence. ICAC is now run by 3 experts, 1 from New Zealand, 2 from Australia, highly competent anti-corruption people sitting in these important offices. If there is any sniff whatsoever of corruption, you have every right whatsoever to mount a formal complaint. Not just advocacy here on Parliament, not just advocacy in the social media or media for that matter, but any corruption issue we now have brought in ICAC to be a specific focus on corruption, misuse, mismanagement, etc. This Parliament also, in the last term, under Pangu's words, have allowed for Whistleblowers Act to come through. You will be given protection. We've also allowed for the amendment to Proceeds of Crime Act that brought in the undisclosed wealth provision into that. So anyone, an associated politician or a worker of a politician, or a politician for that matter, found to be living a lifestyle that doesn't commensurate to the income, then these laws that we brought into Parliament already to assist to ensure we remedy the situation going forward. So I would encourage the good member, you have every right to ask these questions on the floor of Parliament. You have every right to submit further questions to us. You have every right to deploy restitution or further investigation through ICAC, through police, through ombudsman, and through other legitimate avenues that are available. The government will assist also to looking at the Younger Children Fund structure and its service today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, our question time has left. Ministerial statement. Prime Minister.
No.
Minister for State-Owned Enterprises.
Mr. Assistant Speaker, today I wish to update the honourable members of this Parliament on progress being made to reform and rehabilitate a very important power company, PNG Power Limited, and to refute counterproductive speculation and misinformation, some of it politically motivated. Mr. Acting Speaker, it is a fact that PNG Power is experiencing difficulties which have worsened in recent days, and the Marape Rosa government recognized the impact on people's lives, the business community and the wider economy. But in acknowledging those uncomfortable facts, I want to reassure the public that we are administering strong medicine to cure PNG Power's ills. Late last year, the Marape Rosa government, through its trustee shareholder Kumul Consolidated Holdings Limited, with the assistance and cooperation of PNG Power and other agencies, began preparing the foundations for the first phase of a rescue plan for consideration by National Executive Council. That rescue plan, Mr. Acting Speaker, has been approved by the NEC. Mr. Assistant Speaker, I want to stress that prior to the Marape Rosa government assuming office in 2019, PNG Power had been over the course of many years allowed to drift without effective oversight, without concern for its finances and transparency and accountability, with constant change of executive management based sometimes on politics and cronyism, and a complete disregard for the continuing decline of its operating capacity and its infrastructure over more than 20 years. Honourable members will know that the previous administration was aware in 2015, when it declared a state of emergency at PNG Power, that drastic action and substantial funds would be required if the national power company was to survive. Yet, Mr. Acting Speaker, PNG Power did not deliver what was necessary, and the financial losses and power blackouts increased and continue to increase. Now, Mr. Acting Speaker, we are all paying the price for that negligence and lack of concern over more than 20 years with the national power operator on the brink of failure. Mr. Assistant Speaker, PNG Power has reached a critical point where all financial indications show that this company is in danger of insolvency, and it requires significant cost-cutting and recapitalization. PNG Power, Mr. Acting Speaker, has not made a profit since 2016 and has accumulated losses from 2013 totaling 593.4 million kina. It owed, Mr. Acting Speaker, about 882 million to unsecured creditors at the end of last year. Mr. Acting Speaker, President Speaker, based on the 2022 financial results, PNG Power is averaging 76.9 million kina in revenue a month and incurring 91 million kina a month in costs. Honourable members, you will understand that this is an untenable situation. Over the past decade, revenue has grown only by 27.6%, from 735 million gross to 938 million kina, while costs have increased by almost 50%, from 768 million to 1.1 billion kina. Mr. Assistant Speaker, PNG Power's audited financial statements continue to be disclaimed by the auditors, which signifies the view of the external auditor that the information is missing or does not exist, and therefore the auditor cannot provide an opinion on the accuracy of the accounts. This is the worst possible outcome from an external audit. The carried forward end of the year balances are not confirmed, which limits the ability of the Board of Directors of PNG Power and the management to understand PNG Power Limited's financial situation with confidence and to make therefore informed decisions. Major contributing factors of the last 15 years that affect our power system reliability, cost and accessibility include human capability, or human competence rather, aging infrastructure, and almost non-existent asset management program, and a lack of capital investment in core assets. Mr. Assistant Speaker, managerial, technical, and financial capacity have been major limitations in attempts by PNG Power to reform itself, especially in its inability to plan and manage projects of this nature and scope. Therefore, Kumul Consolidated Holdings Limited as the shareholder will be leading the team responsible for saving PNG Power Limited from now on. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the Marabe Rosa government has responded to the challenges thrown by PNG Power in addition to the emergency action and funding initiated in 2021, which included the contribution by KCH of 439 million plus in-kind resources to help PNG Power. In 2020 and 2021, the Department of Treasury and Kumul Consolidated Holdings Limited completed the SOE-rated reforms required under the sub-programs 1 and 2 of the Asian Development Bank SOE Reform Program, which was initiated by the Marabe Rosa government and worth about 860 million kina in a policy-based loan, which was then regarded as budget support. From this money, Mr. Assistant Speaker, KCH has received 288 million to support SOE recapitalization. In 2022, the Department of Treasury and Kumul Consolidated Holdings Limited completed all the reforms required under the sub-program 3 of the Asian Development Bank State-Owned Enterprise Reform Program, which provided 850 million kina in December 2022 of budget support to the state for forwarding to the SOEs. Funding from this sub-program is in the process of being allocated to either PNG Power
or KCH. Mr. Assistant Speaker, these reform program achievements are very significant, especially considering the disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic over the last 4 years. PNG Power is now embarking on a comprehensive and far-reaching restructure that is based on facts established by expert analysis that has continued over the past few months with a methodical approach to deal with very deep and complex issues that have been allowed to fester for more than 20 years. Mr. Acting Assistant Speaker, I must confirm that in March 2023, the National Executive Council of the Marabe Rosa government approved funding of 211 million kina for PNG Power Limited. Mr. Assistant Speaker, this is the first time in so many years for a government to give direct funding to PNG Power. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the Marabe government has put its money where its mouth is. For the first time, Mr. Speaker. With support from Treasury, PNG Power will execute a financial and technical turnaround at PNG Power. Corporate restructuring is aimed to cost about 26 million kina. Technical reform relating to engineering and retail will cost 155 million kina, with contingencies set at 30 million kina. Mr. Assistant Speaker, Kumul Consolidated Holdings Limited, PNG Power, and the Department of Treasury have successfully sourced 1,075 million kina in funding to support PNG Power's 15-year power sector development plan, consisting of 720 million kina from ADB, 250 million kina from the Australian Infrastructure Finance Fund for the Pacific or AIF, and 105 million kina from the World Bank. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the plan is for these funds to be released over the next 15 years. Not 1 or 2 years, but the next 15 years, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the reform at PNG Power will focus on 8 key areas. 1, organizational efficiency in the short term, with emphasis on implementing cost-cutting measures to strengthen PNG Power's liquidity position. Number 2, optimizing people and culture, analyze the essential skills requirements across the company and assess whether specific capability exists and evaluate the current constraints in the human capital and work culture, and then take action to address competency gaps, which are many, Mr. Speaker, in fact, and implement change management initiatives, including in relation to staff culture, work practices, and the Essential Services Act. Number 3, Mr. Assistant Speaker, financial management strengthening. Target all aspects of the company's financial management capability, including but not limited to budgeting, forecasting, cost tracking, cost control, procurement, securing financial records, and fixing disclaimed and qualified audits. Number 4, business recapitalization. Identifying options that are available to recapitalize the business to meet large credit position and mobilize capital for grid stability and strengthening work to be undertaken. 5, revenue improvement. Focus on addressing non-system losses, particularly improving billing, metering, and collections. 6, service reliability improvement. To develop a detailed and prioritized, fully costed capital expenditure plan across all grids in line with the 15-year PNG Power Master Plan and other relevant strategic industry plans. Mr. Assistant Speaker, this will then be used to engage with development partners to solicit targeted funding support. 7, Power Development Plan. In line with existing regulation, it is important to have a power development plan that is updated every 5 years. This plan should include focused capital, operating expenditure across the company's operations based on least cost principles. 8, regulatory contract negotiation. or tariff setting. These component aims to develop regulatory contract negotiation with the regulator, namely the National Energy Authority. The corporate focus for the next 6 months, Mr. Assistant Speaker, will be stabilizing the balance sheet, cutting costs, instituting an expenditure control committee, improving and tightening tender and procurement processes, and right-sizing the company. The operating and technical focus for the next 6 months, Mr. Assistant Speaker, will be on restoring stability and reliability to the Port Moresby and Ramu grids, and providing field support to provincial mini-grids. During this period, the condition of assets on the 2 main grids, namely the Port Moresby and the Ramu grid, and the provincial systems will be assessed. An essential task, Mr. Acting Speaker, that has not been conducted over many, many years since 2011. Mr. Assistant Speaker, grid strengthening will take up a large part of the proposed funding. Reliability is integral to increasing revenue by ensuring that major large load customers remain on the grid and those who are self-generating have confidence to reconnect to the grid. Mr. Assistant Speaker, reliability of the grid underpins PNG Power's retail strategy, targeting the connection of several large